Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for attending. My name is Ryan here at Crow Canyon. Just at the top of the hour now, we're just about to hop into our webinar covering our request manager system, I should say, sorry. So we're just going to give folks a few more minutes to kind of filter in. We're expecting a few more, so hang tight for just a second and we'll get going here and as soon as we can. Okay. So folks who trickle in from here will have to catch up with us. Well, again, thanks for attending. My name's Ryan. For those of you who don't know me, for those of you who do, it's nice to have you guys attend, and thanks for being a part of this. We also have Scott Restivo on the webinar. He's going to be answering questions. So if you have questions in the moment, feel free to use the question section in the webinar box there to feed those over to Scott, and he will answer those as we go. Today, we are going to be talking about our request manager system, specifically for SharePoint on-premise or Office 365. So this could be 2010, or no, I'm sorry, not 10, 13, 16, 19, Office 365, both classic and modern UI. We are offering, our goal is to kind of help people transition to this, more remote-based workforce right now with what what we're all currently dealing with. I'm sure we're all affected in some way or another, and this is, in our opinion, the best way that we could help, either our existing customers or people just looking to manage and handle the dispersed workforce, the remote workforce that you guys have now. So what we do is we make Crow Canyon makes applications for, like I said, SharePoint on-premise, SharePoint online that fits inside of your SharePoint environment. One of these tools is what we call our request manager tool. And it's basically a way to manage requests through a few different channels and avenues. So creating requests to assigning requests on the back end, and then managing and tracking them from a higher level, how many requests have been submitted, where we are in the process, due dates, and things like that. So we're going to be covering the, kind of the top to bottom, taking a real deep dive into the request manager tool, and we're going to use this webinar as kind of like a training session, because this tool is going to be offered for free. Right now we have it tentatively scheduled out for 6 months, so this is going to be a tool that's free of use until October 1st. For you guys to use as you see fit to handle those requests that that may be coming in from your now remote workforce. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about permissions and the different groups that are going to use this request management tool. So right now we're looking at the back end, the landing page for our technicians, and really, as we see it, typically break our groups down into 3. So that's our end users, ticket submitters, our departmental staff or ticket workers, right? And then the admin, people who can come in and make changes, determine who's going to be working requests, put people into specific permissions, maybe someone on the IT team, maybe someone on the SharePoint team who can control the site or admin the site. And now, once the permissions are decided, we typically stick with typical SharePoint permissions. We do have a few different groups built into each particular site, like I just talked about, that you can kind of put in different groups or different buckets, add people in individually. But once the permissions are decided, then we can talk about working with and creating tickets. And there's a few different ways to create requests in this case. So the first way is to create a request from our quick launch, which is here on the left-hand nav. Now this is collapsible, so you can choose to work with more space, or if you like the navigation bar open, you can have it. But right here under the request list, we give you the new request form available in a quick link. as a pop-up. So if you want to submit a request on behalf of a user, you absolutely can. The new form's going to pop up, and you have the ability to come in and plug in, whatever request you got. Maybe someone called you, maybe they pinged you on Teams, which we'll get into in more detail in a minute, but they somehow got a request over to you that wasn't submitted by them directly. Now, another option that we have is through our employee portal. It looks a little like this, and those familiar with Crow Canyon have seen this before or been a part of our webinars. This is a part of our Nitro Studio. And just real quick side topic here, our Nitro Studio is our tool set that underlies all of our applications. You can I'm sure you can see it here at the top bar, Nitro Studio apps. We'll get into that in more detail at the end of towards the end of the webinar, I should say, when we talk about the admin. But this Power Portal, this Nitro portal, is included with our applications, and it's a great avenue for end users to submit tickets through and really gain knowledge through. So as you can see here, it's a landing page built specifically for them, where they can do really the three things labeled across the top, and that is submit requests, view their requests, or view knowledge base articles. So when they submit requests, what's nice is that these forms are going to be configurable using the Nitro tools, and it's going to pre-populate some of their information for them, right? If we look up here in the upper right-hand corner, we can see that I'm logged in as my admin account, and the information that we want to have pulled over, email, department, phone number, is going to come over with that logged in user. So it's something that's going to automatically populate for them. Now they can come in and fill out their request type. What's cool here is that we have categories and issue types pre-built into the application. So these are lists that are pre-built, come out of the box, and they're linked to each other. So what I mean by that is if we select a category of, let's say, hardware request, right? We're going to see, the working remote package issue type. We come down and we see, change it to a new Teams group, right? It's a group creation issue type. So the issue type is dependent upon the category. So you can come in here and there's a way to come in and change this and add new features, which we'll talk about in just a second. But whatever categories that you want linked to issue types, that's how it's going to be displayed to your end users. Now, once they submit a request, they can view that request. Well, it's going to tell them that it's been created. And then from a notification perspective, your appropriate team is going to be notified. But before we get into working the ticket and assigning the ticket, let's focus a little bit more on the end users. So once their request is submitted, they can view their request from this form here. Now, obviously, we have a lot of requests under my name because this is a demo site, and I always create the requests, right? This is only going to be reflected upon the requests that your end users create specific to them. Meaning, when they submit a request, we're basically making a list view available to them, see who is assigned of my request, what the status is, what category and issue type was it submitted under, have there been any notes added to this request, basically ways to keep me in the know on what's going on with my particular request. This other form at the top here, this knowledge base form, feeds from the knowledge base list in the backend site. And basically what it does is it pushes information up to this portal that end users may be searching for, that they may need to be involved now in their new remote workspace, whether it's payment extensions or password resets, right? That's my favorite. We don't have any under password, but any information that we can make available to them, they can come in here and use our list search feature, which is a part of our Crow Canyon Nitro Studio, to search the knowledge base specifically. It's only going to point them at this direct library, so it doesn't spit them across the entire SharePoint slide collection, much like the backend search does, or the typical SharePoint search does. And all of this is configurable. So I talked about the forms being configurable, part of the Nitro Studio. This list search is part of the Nitro Studio, the Power Portal. And that's all configurable. It's going to come out of the box the way I showed to you today. But you are going to have access, if you're one of those admins, to come in and make changes. The header, the footer, the menu, that background image, color scheme, and then the forms we display across the top as well, the request, the knowledge base, etc. And one other thing you can do in our portal or using Teams is have this chat integration. So like we've talked about, this is our Nitro interface. And we've talked about a little bit about the forms, a little bit about the portal. We'll get into reports and workflows in a minute. But we talked about that list search. And now I want to talk a little bit about our AI services. You know, Teams is going to be pushed more and more to the forefront now, especially in the next couple months. It's an easy tool to communicate with, you know, multiple users. It's an easy way to pass information back and forth. And what we have is the ability to embed one of our AI chatbots into a team. And once the end user starts a conversation with that chatbot, we can actually create requests from the team itself and have it populate in the backend SharePoint site. So I just have a little example here on my team itself. So you can see that, you know, I've logged in and said hello. It's recognized who I am. You know, what area do I need service in? You can call your service site whatever you want. And then it's basically, oh, I gotta type in what my problem is. Got a little ahead of myself there. Let's use a forgot password. So basically what it's gonna do, it's going to prompt it's gonna look for any information related to my particular problem. So in this case, it's forgot password. It's going to point those KB articles. It's going to point me to those KB articles that are specific to, you know, my request type, and then it's going to give me a kind of a smattering of things that I can do from here. And one of those things is submit ticket. So, you know, at best case, maybe one of these KB articles you're pushing to your end users has solved the request. If not, they can actually submit a ticket from the Teams chat itself and actually have it populate that backend site like we talked about. So what's cool is that, you know, the portal is great. You know, we can rely on our end users to search the, you know, the knowledge base site or submit requests through here. But as Teams becomes more and more prominent, as Teams I think is free now offered by Microsoft during our current situation, it's just another way to connect this to your backend SharePoint site. So you can embed that in our modern portals. You can have users submit requests through the portal or through the team itself. It's just another avenue for you to interact with your end users and have requests be submitted in a more timely manner, right? Or maybe cut down on requests, leveraging that, you know, the push of the knowledge base articles to them through that team chat. Okay, so just a quick recap. We can submit a request through the quick launch on the backend site. We can submit a request through the portal, through the submit your request form here. We can view requests on the portal, view KB articles, and on the Teams, in the Teams AI chat, you can automatically push KB articles to your end users or have them submit a ticket through the AI bot on the Teams chat. Now, the last avenue, probably the most common one, is generating a ticket via email. What happens is that you use some sort of shared inbox or multiple shared inboxes, and using our email sync app, create a ticket or a request from that email. The title of the email becomes the title of the ticket. The body of the email becomes the body of the ticket, and it comes into our email tickets list and then notifies the appropriate team member that a new request has been created. So email, portal, Teams, request on behalf of a user. Now, I've said a few times to the appropriate team, right? And so basically what we do is we submit requests based on categories and issue types, or that's how we assign a request out of the box. Like we talked about when the request is submitted through the portal form or through the email or assigned to someone, we basically say, okay, hey, based on access request category, it's going to go to Ryan. Based on the new Teams group category, it's going to go to Scott, right? So you can not only assign requests to users or technicians, I should say, by category. You can also do it by issue type, and that can go to a specific person, or it can go to a group of people. So that's how we do it out of the box. Now, that doesn't limit us to just that avenue. We're very flexible. If you want everyone to be notified when a new request has been submitted, that's a possibility. If you want one person to be notified when a new request is submitted, again, absolutely possible. It's entirely up to you, but it does automatically notify the person when a new request is submitted, either under their category or their issue type, and then they actually have a link to the request in an email that brings them to the backend site where they can come in, and maybe they've already been assigned to the ticket if it's an individual, or maybe if it's a group, they can say, okay, it's going to be assigned to Ryan as opposed to James, or Scott as opposed to Ryan, right? You still get those notifications and the ability to view the tickets from the backend site. Now, viewing the tickets, modifying the tickets. So as you can see here, we have the kind of this main landing page where it gives us an overview of our different types of requests, right? Overdue, unassigned, opened. But we have a few different dashboards for our people to work out of, mainly our staff and our manager's dashboard. This is where a lot of the work gets done. And it, pretty self-explanatory in regards to what they are, right? In our staff workspace, we're gonna see requests equal to me, right? With my name on them, assigned to me, as well as my tasks. And we'll get into tasks in just a second, right? Maybe some reports specific to me as well. And in our manager space, it's gonna be a little bit more report heavy. Maybe we see overdue requests for our team, staff load by request, open requests by category and priority, incoming requests by month, right? Assign a request maybe to me if I'm working any, and more of a 10,000 foot overview of what's going on with the request in this particular department. But when it comes to managing request, we can click on the form here. It's gonna give us a pop-up box for this particular request. Now from this screen, our edit version, or I'm sorry, our display version of our request, we have a few different options in the control bar at the top, specifically these custom actions. So like I was talking about, if it gets assigned to your group and you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this ticket, we can run a custom action to automatically assign it to me. It's going to run the workflow and refresh the ticket. Now when we tab over to staff, we can see that this has been assigned to me, right? So our custom actions, the best way to think about these are manually invoked workflows. Our automated workflows are more, hey, the request has been created, the email notifications have gone out to the team members or the individual category owners to notify them that a new request has been created. Things that happen automatically when something happens, a trigger happens, a request is created, it's modified, edited, etc. But these custom actions are going to be fired off at a time of our choosing. So it gives us control over, when we assign, how we, change assignments, etc. Another option or another feature in Crocanyon is this email tool. This part of Nitro Studio is our email manager. And what this does is it gives us the ability to send emails from a request and have that email be automatically related to the request. So what I mean by that is when I click on it, it pulls up basically an email template, right? What you would see in your Outlook. Who's it from? In this case, it's from me. It could be a shared inbox in this case. Who's it going to? In this case, it's the requester, maybe assigned staff. You could really send an email to anybody, user in a group, a column, an outside email address if you wanted. Do you want to include any attachments, KB articles? And then the option to choose through a different, some different mail templates, right? So you can see we've created a default mail template in this case to show you what that pre-population would look like. And in the email manager tool in the Nitro Studio, you have the ability to create as many templates as you want, and then apply those to the to this email feature. So I've always kind of equated this to signatures in the Outlook on Client, right? We all used to create 10, 12 signatures and then apply the correct one based on what email you were sending, right? We send the same email 100 times a week or whatever, we had a signature for it. Same idea here. The cool thing, or really the time-saving piece of this is that, when we hit send, we can just, or when we select the template, I should say, and hit send, instead of having to maybe copy and paste that email sent into the request, what it's doing is that it's automatically relating this email to the request itself. So that way, if anyone responds to that email, here you can see this right here, we're going to keep a running log of both the outgoing and incoming emails related to our request. right? So time saver. Instead of having to toggle back and forth between Outlook and SharePoint, you generate an email from the request itself saying, hey, I need more information on this direct deposit form. And when they respond, it's going to come right back into this email history list and have it be there for your viewing. So you don't have to search the title or the person in your Outlook account. It's just right there and ready for you. And the cool thing about this is that it leverages something in our forms. Go back real quick. We're leveraging something in our Nitro forms called associated items. And basically, it's a fancy term for connecting multiple lists together, creating a parent-child connection within our lists. So in this case, the request list is the parent list. Then our email history is our child list. Why it's cool or why I kind of geek out about it, it's because now this email becomes its own separate line item. And the nice thing about it is that when we pull this up, we can see the body of the email in the line item. So instead of just seeing like email sent at such and such time, it gives us the entire information related to that email. You know, what it said, who it came from, the parent item, in this case, the request, who it went to, etc. So just a nice way to capture more information. Yeah, it's a time saver, but instead of just being, you know, a little blip on the side, it's actually a full readout of the email, and it keeps you in the know of what's going on with this particular request. Plus, it gives you a little bit of, you know, feet to stand on if there's any miscommunication or perceived ball dropping on a request, right? No, these emails were sent at this time at this date. Here's what it said. You don't have to stress about hunting through emails for it. It's right here in front of you. We also do keep a version history on our tickets as well. Our requests, I should say, tickets requests, I guess the same thing. But the idea is that you can see who changed the request, when they changed it, the date and time they changed it, and what they changed. So it keeps a running history here for you. Now, that's the display version. Now, working the request, we're going to have to come into the edit version of the ticket. And that's going to give us the ability to come in and change the columns on this particular form. So this first tab, this employee tab, I've always seen it as an overview tab. You know, the title, the category, and the issue type that it was submitted under, right? The one we just created, the details or the description. I forgot to mention this on the portal, I apologize, but the description field is a rich text field. So you can copy and paste, you can insert images, you can include attachments. Basically any information that they want to get over to you can be available in this description box, right? And this gets carried over into the description field in the back end of the site, and this is where the information from the email will be populated as well. So description and then requester info, right? So that overview, what is this request about? The staff tab, you know, who's assigned to it. I talked a little bit about ticket assignment, you know, either it being a team or an individual staff member. This is where we do that, or where we can see who's assigned to the request. In this case, it's application owners and assigned to me because we ran that self-assigned custom action. So it got assigned to the team first when we created this request in the portal at the beginning of the webinar. I ran the self-assigned action, and now I'm assigned to the ticket. Now you can see we have like due date in here and work log. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, you can assign a due date so that way you can keep tabs on it. And, you know, a work log is internal notes, who's working on it, date and time stamped, you know, who said what they did, etc. when they were working on that particular work log. Now, due date. So one of the help desk articles or knowledge base articles that Critical Canyon provides that we most commonly use is our SLA KB article. Now, this is something that we give you guys that you can configure as an add-on top of the out-of-the-box product. And what it is, it's a way to automatically populate a due date when a request is created, notify a request assignee that the request is due at a date and time, and now you can ping them as aggressively as you choose. I believe it's as quickly as every 15 minutes. You know, we typically see it the day of or the day before. And then you can update the priority, this request or this column here, when that due date comes overdue. And then we can also notify the manager if the request goes overdue as well. So like I said, we have the option to add that SLA in. We give you a rundown in the KV article on how to configure that so you can add your date and time cadence of your choosing. If you want us to help you with it, there are some training options that cover the application and Nitro training that can be added on after the fact if you're so interested. But that due date column can be important as you guys choose it to be. Now resolution. So when the request is ready to be closed out, this is the choice column in SharePoint. And for those who are unfamiliar, basically it's a drop down, right? We give your technicians a bunch of choices, just like we do your end users in your categories and issue types list, right? This is a choice column here. This choice column, you can add in as many choices as you want, right? There's no restriction. I think there may be like 5,000 or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but it's a lot. So you can see we have a few different options with the out-of-the-box product, right? By design, problem, end user education, other. By coming into the list itself, you can come in and add in as many choice columns as you want. You can also do it on the form as well, which we'll talk about, again, like I said, near the end of the webinar when we talk about that admin section, or that focus more solely on the Nitro Studio apps portion. But when you select a resolution, let's talk a little bit more about the workflow piece and the columns dropdown. So when we select the resolution, we have this box pop up that says resolution notes. And this is going to go to our end user, right? This is the information that's going to be passed to them when this request is closed. That's going to be available to them in this View My Request tab when that information is saved and sent over, right? This is where they're going to view that update on that request. This is rich text, so you can manually type in. You can copy and paste. You can add screenshots. Again, just like the description column in the creation of the form, the resolution notes is very much the same. It's that rich text column, and we can add in any information that we want to get over to the end user in this space here. So this is what's going to be sent to them. What's cool about this resolution notes column and a workflow that we do have built in is under this knowledge base tab, right? So just kind of a quick sidetrack. We do have the ability to add KB articles to a ticket, but you can also create knowledge base articles from a request as well. So what it does is it takes this resolution notes field, turns it into a SharePoint wiki page, or SharePoint wiki article, wiki page, I should say, and it saves the KB article under the category and issue type of the request and adds it to your knowledge base article library. So it gives you the ability to build your KB article library as you go. And maybe once requests start flowing in, it makes that AI integration with Teams more robust, and the tool kind of helps support itself in that regard, keeps building in the right direction. Okay, this last tab, this related items tab. So we talked a little bit about the associated items feature in the tool set, in the forms tool, that parent-child relationship. All three of these features you see on this tab are you leveraging that aspect of the forms tool, connecting multiple lists together, using the request list as the parent list and these other lists as the child list. So associated tasks then becomes a child list to the parent request, meaning I always look at this as like a way to assign someone a task if you have multiple things due on a ticket. So maybe someone comes in and the toners or the printer's out of toner, or something silly like, okay, I need VPN access. Maybe it's an access request, but I need multiple people to approve it or allow it, right? You can create approval tasks. You can create generic tasks and have those tasks be assigned to a particular ticket. Maybe they need a laptop. They submit a laptop request, but they actually need a charger as well as a monitor. And you want to assign those tasks to multiple other people within the department. That's fine as well, right? Just giving you some examples of how we can make this work. But much like the ticket, the task assignee is going to be notified when a new task is created. They're going to get an email notification that a new task has been assigned to them. It's going to show up and be automatically related to the request. And in the staff workspace, it's going to show up under their task dashboard. So now we're building in multiple levels of coverage here, right? So we're kind of eliminating human error in that regard. We assign a task to a request, it shows up in that person's dashboard, they get the email notification, and it's saved against the original request. And then you can always go back and look at this form, see where we are. The task assignee can come in and update it. Maybe they've changed it from not started to in progress, right? It just gives you the ability now to track the request and not have to worry about, stress about keeping track of everything all at once, right? And the last piece here is our time tracking piece. Time tracking is more of a manual process. SharePoint itself was never a great time log area. It's never going to be able to be like, oh, Ryan was logged in for half an hour and he worked on this ticket for 15 minutes and this request for 10 minutes and this task for 5 minutes, right? It's never going to be, SharePoint's never going to be that. But we give you a nice workaround here. Again, leveraging that associated items rule, saying, okay, the time tracking list, it's going to be its own list. And we're going to be able to come in here and plug in time logs associated with this particular request. So it's on the technician a little bit in that regard, but what it does is it gives you the ability to store multiple time logs again against a request. So you can see, okay, this ticket was open for 2 days and we spent 2 cumulative hours on it, right? So it gives you the ability to generate reports off that time tracking, as well as, again, related to a particular request. So that's really working, a request in a nutshell. So all the way from request submission to the custom action of ticket assignment or assigning to someone else, all the way through working the request. So if you have any questions here, feel free to throw those in now and Scott will answer them. And then I'm going to shift myself over to the report center. We'll talk a little bit about reporting now as we move through right before we talk about the admin space. So our report center, our reports are live. You can see a few examples like we talked about in the manager's workspace here. They're living on a particular list. And I think that's something that I should have highlighted earlier, but it's one of the features of Nitro Studio, of the Crow Canyon applications, that I really appreciate, in the sense of that all of our tools are list specific, meaning our forms are built directly on lists. Our workflows are built around lists and columns and actions. And our reports live on lists and columns as well. So when a form gets updated and a column changes, the report's gonna reflect that, meaning it goes from access request column to in the category column, it goes from access request to benefits. We can see that reflected in our report here, right? So the reports are ever changing based on the work that's being done within the system. And you can view that live within the dashboards, the manager's workspace, etc. But that report center is a piece of the Nitro Studio, and the nice thing about it living on the list is that as long as the information is within the site, we can report on it. So just to kind of give you an idea, now we have some assets built in here. This is for a little bit different of an application, but I just wanted to show you guys, the many different reports that you can configure on a site, right? Close request by month, contracts by month, right? My close request by month, my open request by category and priority. Really, as long as the information lives within the site, you can report on it. Now you can configure existing reports or you can create your own reports. And that's, again, done through our Nitro app here, our Nitro report tool, part of the admin section. So real quick before I get into that piece, we'll just do a quick recap. Submitting tickets, our end users, working tickets is our technician, working our request, viewing our request. Now the admin side is the ability to come in and make changes to the backend site, access to our Nitro Studio. So as an admin, you can come in here and configure anything within the SharePoint site that you like. So what's cool is that it's coming out of the box a certain way, right? Everything I've showed you today is an out of the box feature with the request manager. Sure, I've made it, look Crow Canyon specific with the blues and the whites, but the functionality is the same. Now, once it's in place, it's really yours to own, right? It lives within inside of your SharePoint space. It's going to be in a site or site collection of your choosing, and these tools are going to be licensed for you to use. So it's not an extra, it's not an add-on, right? Nitro Studio comes with it, and as long as you have the appropriate permissions, you can come in and change the underlying site. So yes, it comes a certain way, but it is configurable to your guys' needs. I mean, really, when we're talking an out-of-the-box tool, it's going to get you, 90% of the way there. We're going to do a lot to manage and maintain the requests that you're dealing with now. But the nice thing about having access to Nitro is that you can take ownership of that last 10 to 15%, excuse me. And we do have getting started guide as a handout. Probably should have mentioned that from the start. I apologize, but in the handout section, we did put together a request manager getting started guide to help you get up and running. But we also have some Nitro training available. That is a separate cost, a different piece. But if you want to go down that route and really understand Nitro, there's ways. Back to the point, everything's configurable. So the reports, we can see all of our configured reports here. We can create new reports. We can configure our existing reports, right? So if we come down here and my open category, request by category and priority, we can come in and edit that, really to make it whatever you want, but we'll show you an existing one to make things easier. So we can play with what lists we're pulling the data from. What's nice is that you can pull it from multiple lists. You can do it from a current site collection or cross site collections, which is awesome. And then you can select the lists or multiple lists that you want, what site that you want. So this is a new feature in Crow Canyon. I won't go too far into it. If you have questions, you can either shoot those over after the fact or right now, but we now have the ability to expand multiple site collections to pull in information into a report or a workflow. Very handy. You can change your report type. So in this case, we have a bar. We could easily do like a funnel, right? Get kind of fun with it. Different reports types. And then our accesses we're reporting on. Those columns we're reporting on. Category, priority, right? If we want to do value, allow these to be drill downs, meaning that if we click on it, it's going to take me to that particular view so I can see the 4 open requests by payroll. It really gives you the ability to take it and run with the reporting tool, right? You can add in your own, custom script to have each report have its own theme, which is cool. It's a new feature as well. So you have a CSS or a script that you want to run for a theme, you have that ability. So reports are configurable, and the forms are configurable as well. The forms really get a lot of the publicity because really anytime we deal with SharePoint, well, most of the time we deal with SharePoint, we're dealing with the form, right? So that gets a lot of the love. So we'll briefly walk through that here now that we have some time. And like I was saying, all of our Nitro tools are list specific. So in this case, when we select a Nitro form, we're going to select that list where we want to configure the form on or change the form on. So in this case, it's going to be our request list. And now this is going to take me to the form specific to our request list. So it's going to look pretty similar to what we had just pulled up as we were walking through our technician demo, right? Right, employee tab, staff tab, related items tab, right? Pretty similar. Except I want to do the edit version of our form. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so just real quick, because it's on the top of my mind, and I got a little bit of ADD, I just want to talk about adding choice columns and drop downs. So like I talked about in the resolution, you have the ability to add in as many as you want. For those unfamiliar with choice columns in SharePoint, you can edit it in here and add in, any column that you want. So you can theory any of these drop downs, you can either edit within the form itself or in the list, but you can add in as many column drop downs as you want to make it specific to you guys. That's part of that 10% I was just talking about, right? Maybe you want to come in here and configure our own drop downs, etc. But when it comes to configuring the form, we really try to make it as easy as possible. In my opinion, I feel sometimes Microsoft tools are a little bit too developer centric. Either the Power Platform or InfoPath or SharePoint Designer, I feel like at times I feel like I have to have a degree in Microsoft to make things work. It's kind of frustrating. So our goal with the Nitro Form Designer, or really any of the Nitro tools, is to make it as user-friendly as possible. And in my mind, I see it in a few different levels, meaning like UI, UX would be the first level, SharePoint specifics would be the second level, and then like the developer-centric, the stuff that the developers want from Power Apps and InfoPath, right? It's still, or SharePoint Designer, it's still there. It's just there's a few other layers to make it easier for your average power user to come in and make changes to the form. So from a UI perspective, you know, we have a few forms created, you know, out of the box that you can kind of toggle through, right? Under global settings, you can create your own themes. So you can come in here and change anything from the font family to the font color to the back color and the column layout color, and really make it every form specific to your organization. Once you create the theme, it's now available across all of the forms within your site. You can also create or change each form independent of each other, right? Maybe I want to change the panel or the panel background color for this guy here. You know, I can put a nice blue on it. So UI, UX, you know, changes. Same with the tabs. You know, if I want to drag and drop a tab in, I can, you know, add in new tabs. I can add in HTML lines to give me headers, you know, to make the form look and feel really, you know, a way that I want it to. It's kind of fun. It makes it specific. Sometimes I feel like SharePoint can be a little monotonous with that kind of white on white over theme. So it just gives you the ability to kind of take it and run with it. Now, when it comes to like SharePoint things, SharePoint specific, under form controls is basically like our list controls, our list options. So here we have all of our columns available on the SharePoint list here in the form controls. You know, so in this case, we're in the request list, and I have all of these columns created on the request list, right? And what I can do is I can select any columns I have and drag and drop it onto the form wherever I want it to, right? So it's just a simple move over from one area to the next, right? Drag and drop. Now what's cool is we already talked about editing columns in the form, so I don't have to go to the backend list to make changes. I can do so right from the form designer, right? I can edit a column here. I can also create columns here as well. So we try to keep everything from one common interface, from one screen, keep everything centric in the form designer tool. I don't have to leave to create a column. I don't have to leave to edit a column. I don't have to create a column and then go tie it to the list later on, right? It's kind of all at your fingertips. So again, that's a little different than InfoPath where you create a form and then maybe have to tie it to a backend list. We're doing it in real time, right? Create a column, it shows up on the list, there it is, drag it and drop it over. And then it can be edited after the fact. Now, if you like more SharePoint specific things, you can build in, you know, unique permissions, you know, show, hide, read permissions on tabs, on the list itself, and that associated item grid I was talking about earlier. You can do it on unique conditions. You know, if certain columns equal this or don't equal that, you can do it to a particular group or persons, etc. And the same can be done on columns. You know, show this column if, you know, show column B if column A equals this, show column C if column A equals that. It gives you the ability to build in your own unique permissions and validations on the form itself. And then the developer side, you know, we have the ability to call to external data columns, autofill user information. We showed this a little bit on the request portal, right? When we submit a new request, we're populating some information over from my user profile, email, IT, phone, right? That's where we would, oh, sorry, wrong screen. Where are we? There we go. You know, that's where we would do this, populate that user information, call out to external data sources, third-party tools, inject custom JavaScript, inject custom CSS on a form, that developer-centric side of the forms designer. Now, I could spend, honestly, probably 3 hours talking about the forms themselves. They are very complex. So if you want to know more about the form specifically or about any of the Nitro Studio tools, we do offer these as a standalone. Now that's not included in our free offering for the request manager. It has its own costing model, but if you're interested in knowing more, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk about the forms. I really enjoy it, the workflows as well, really any features of Nitro Studio. let us know independently, and we'll set up a time to take a more in-depth walkthrough. But as you can see, you do get a lot with the request manager tool that we're offering. Excuse me. So not only do we have the out-of-the-box product, our portal, our back-end site to manage, but for our admins, those who like to play, you also get the Nitro Studio tools as well. And we just gave you a little bit of a taste of what you can do. Obviously, the tools have their own, fun features that you get to play with and get to add and create within your site. But I told myself this webinar was only going to be half an hour. I've obviously run over, so I'm happy that Scott talked me into planning this for an hour. But we have run to the end of my content that I wanted to talk about. So thanks for sticking it out for the extra 15 minutes. But now if you guys have any questions, this would be a really good time to ask. If you're interested about trial information, if you want to get started on this, best thing to do is let us know, sales@crocanian.com. Or if you want to fire over those questions now, we'd be happy to take them.
Hi, Ryan. This is Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Here. Yeah, hi. Hi there. There's a question here about approval processes. There's an approval, I think you covered it, but maybe we go, maybe just go over because usually, I guess the question refers to the fact that a lot of requests have to be approved.
Okay.
Or go through some kind of manager to get, just request has to be approved before it can be fulfilled is the idea.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, the idea, one of the features in the Nitro Studio is this advanced approvals. And what advanced approvals is it's an app that we use for our approval process. Well, one of the options we use for our approval process. In my opinion, it's the easiest. We also have our workflow manager, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Basically, you can create an approval process on a list. In this case, the request list. And those approvers can have a few different options. When an item is approved, denied, or sent back, they basically have those three choices when that approval comes through. So you could, in this case, when a request is created, let's say, you want to add in an approval level. And in that approval level, gotta select the list. There we go. Let me load here real quick. So when we select the request list, we have these different options: when an item is approved, denied, or sent back. And just like in the email manager tool, how we can create different mail templates to send and automatically relate it to a request, we can do the same when, or for each one of these different processes, right? So when an item is approved, this email gets sent. When an item is denied, this email gets sent. When it's sent back, this template gets sent. And who to notify and who it comes from. But basically, you can build in multiple approval levels based on particular conditions. So if it's a certain type of request, right, a category equals hardware request, let's say, right? On a hardware request, we want it to go to the manager, right? So this, manager approval, right? So you can come in and build in different approval levels depending on how many you need for your different request types. So maybe only the hardware request needs an approval. Great, we come in, we build in a manager approval, maybe a second level from the IT manager to say, yeah, this person can get a new laptop. And you can come in and build as many as you need and notify the appropriate parties. We'll use my admin account in this case. We'll say I'm the manager of the approval here. And say, hey, Ryan, Scott's asking for a laptop. Do you want to approve, deny, or send back this particular request? Now, once we define these approval levels, we hit save, we create the approval, the approval process. I'm going to get an email notification. And there's a few different ways that you can configure the approval process, meaning you can kind of go that quote unquote lazy approval option. You can update an approval from an email. Let me see if I can find one for you guys. So in the email itself, you can have a few different options for the approver to click on. Or they can actually come in and physically complete an approval task. So just like we talked about for the task itself, right? So creating an associated task to a parent request. we created that parent-child relationship for an individual task. We could do the same for an approval task, right? Have them come in and physically complete an approval task, like we did with associated tasks. Now we could hide it, permission it appropriately, and have them come in and actually physically sign it off. Or using email parsing, you could do something like this and have them have approved, deny, or send back in the body of an email, maybe some information mapped over from that SharePoint list item, in that case, the request, and then they can actually do it from the email themselves. A lot of us work from our phone and our email nowadays, so we try to make it as mobile friendly as possible, as on the go friendly as possible, especially now that we're more remote than normal. And based on the common language in the title, we can update that task for them. So absolutely, you can build in approval processes. That's not an out-of-the-box feature, so it's there. We have some documentation. I actually think we have an approval process video as well. I think one of our colleagues, James, just did a Nitro workshop on that. So if you're interested, we can send that over, but you absolutely have the ability to come in and build those approval processes on the list, create emails from it, update via email, etc. Scott, do we have any other questions there?
Approval webinar. I think it's actually upcoming, isn't it? Let me see. Let me check that out.
I think, I think that we did it.
No, it's April 2nd.
April 2nd. Okay, so
April
it's
2nd
next
is
week.
the approval workshop. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been doing a number of workshops on Nitro Studio that, include the forms, the custom actions, the workflows. So, a lot of information out there on how to modify the request manager to be exactly what you want and make the modifications like you've been showing. So, we have a lot of information out there on how to do that and how easy it is. Change the forms, change the workflows, change the custom actions, set up approvals. So,
that's
so
exactly
yeah.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, kind of different levels too, right, Scott? Like, we have this handout, which I would definitely suggest you guys downloading. That helps you get the tools up and running out of the box. Kind of like the setting up of the request process and managing the requests. We have a video as well to help you get it set up that matches the manual. And then we have a lot of content on our website, specifically those workshops Scott was talking about for Nitro Studio. And then we are running a big discount on Nitro training as well. If you want to take a 6-hour in-depth course on all things Nitro Studio, that's also an option as well. So it kind of covers you top to bottom, front to back of really how to take advantage of this really cool tool to help manage, the various types of requests that you guys are dealing with currently.
Right. And the other point is it can replace existing request systems that are outdated. Of course, paper is easy to replace, or emails,
Email,
but
yeah.
also InfoPath forms and old access database forms, things like that. This can easily take the place and give you mobile and cloud capabilities that are not there in some of these older tools.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think, what did we decide? It was October 1st, right? We're gonna offer this for free trial for 6 months, right, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah, so October 1st, and then at the end, if you guys say, okay, it served its purpose, it helped me out, it got me through this bulk of the request, no problem. You feel free to move on with it. But if you want to continue to move forward with it after the fact, we can talk pricing from there. Either a 6-month or a year license moving forward. And again, if you have more questions about that after the free period expires, let me know. For those of you who do have my email address, feel free to reach out to me directly. The best email address to get us at, if you don't, is sales@crowcanyon.com.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. We have another, and just for people's notice, we have a Teams summit, a summit on Microsoft Teams coming up on Thursday with 3 really well-known MVPs: Joel Olson, Gokin, and Mike. You can look that up on our website, and those are a free team summit if you're into Microsoft Teams. It's nothing related to Request Manager, but I thought I'd mention it because it's 2 days out, right, Ryan? It's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
And
Yeah.
well, Microsoft's really pushing the Teams aspect. Now I think they're even offering it for free, I believe.
Yeah,
And
at some level. Yeah, some level.
yeah, some level. I don't, don't quote me on it. I don't know the specifics that well, but we put together 3 real knowledgeable folks, MVPs in the community, to talk about Teams, and that's Thursday at Is it 9 a.m. Pacific? I'm not sure of the time
Well,
offhand.
you can sign up for any one of the three or all three. It starts at 9. Joel's at 9. The next one's at 10, and the next one's at 11 on Pacific time.
Perfect.
Yeah, good stuff. We have a lot of other webinars coming up and trainings, but that's one we're really put together and just in the last week or so, and it's doing quite well. A lot of people are interested in it.
That's great. Yeah, and we plan to do more of these, Office 365 strategy sessions as well, correct? Moving forward.
Yes, yes. We're going to be talking about the economic advantages of Nitro Studio, of using Nitro Studio, and showing how it's a very cost-effective alternative to like high-price alternatives, high-price solutions like Nintex or K2 or something. Much more reasonable to go with Nitro Studio. And for forms and workflow solution, also we work on premises, and Power Platform does not. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that if you're on premises, you can't use the Power Platform without some elaborate gateway and all that and the cost involved. So it's better, just go with Nitro Studio for the on-premises SharePoint. And for online, there's places Power Platform comes in well, but Nitro Studio complements it and adds functionality and can help keep your costs down because you don't have to buy the premium version of Power Apps. You can use Nitro Studio in conjunction with Power Apps and make out quite well price-wise. So we're going to be talking about that next week also. It's
Great.
just setting up that webinar now, so we'll let you know the information on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, good
Well,
stuff.
everyone, yeah, thanks for joining. I appreciate you guys sticking out the full hour. And any questions pop up, like I said, reach out to me or Scott directly or sales at Crow Canyon. If you're interested in the trial, shoot us a note, and we'll get you set up and we'll get you moving in the right direction. Scott, thanks for joining and thanks for answering questions. And we'll talk to everyone soon.
And thank you, Ryan. Okay, and
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
for everyone. Okay, bye.